If doing nothing feels uncomfortable, that's not laziness. It's your brain trying to enter cleanup mode. Your brain isn't broken. It just hasn't taken out the trash in a while. I used to think my problem was focus, that I needed better habits, a better app, a better morning routine. I bought noise-canceling headphones. I tried the Pomodoro method. I even rearranged my desk twice in the same week, which, looking back, was probably its own kind of avoidance. But the fog didn't lift. I'd sit at my workstation, staring at code I wrote myself. And the logic that should have been obvious felt like reading someone else's handwriting. The words were there. The meaning wasn't. And the strange part? I wasn't tired. Not exactly. I was full. Over full. My brain felt like a search bar returning too many results. None of them ranked, none of them useful. I was consuming podcasts on my commute, scrolling through articles during lunch, watching video essays before bed. Input, input, input. But nothing was sticking. Nothing was connecting. My thoughts were skimming the surface of everything and landing on nothing. I work in medical devices. Specifically, I write software for precision measurement equipment, glucose monitors, ketone meters, the kind of tools that translate invisible biological signals into numbers you can actually read. And there's something we deal with constantly in that world, signal-to-noise ratio. It doesn't matter how sensitive your sensor is if the noise floor is too high. You could have the most sophisticated detector in existence, and it would still give you garbage readings if the environment is cluttered with interference. I started wondering if my brain was having the same problem, not a lack of signal, too much noise. So I did what I usually do when something feels off. I stopped trying to fix it and started watching it instead. I wore my CGM. I tracked my meals and the gaps between them. I noted when the fog was thickest and when, occasionally, it would thin out on its own, and a pattern showed up. One I honestly didn't expect. The clearest moments weren't after my best meals. They weren't after coffee or exercise or a perfectly optimized morning. They came after stretches of nothing, specifically after longer gaps between eating. 14, sometimes 16 hours, where I just didn't consume, not heroically, not as some disciplined fast, mostly because I got busy and forgot, or because I was walking home. I walk an hour after work most days. And by the time I got back, it was late enough that eating felt optional. But during those windows, something shifted. I'd notice it while writing notes or journaling at night. My sentences got longer, more complete. I wasn't searching for words the way I had been, ideas connected to each other, without me forcing them. It felt less like thinking, and more like remembering how thinking was supposed to feel. I got curious about what was actually happening in those empty hours, and that's when I stumbled into autophagy. Not as a trendy wellness concept, but as something that made mechanical sense to me. Your cells have this built-in cleanup process. When you stop flooding your system with fuel, when the incoming supply drops low enough, your cells start recycling their own damaged parts. Broken proteins, dysfunctional mitochondria, cellular debris that's been piling up. They break it down, repurpose what's useful, discard the rest. It's not dramatic. It's not even something you feel happening, but it changes how your system performs. Think of it like a hard drive. You keep saving files, documents, images, cached data, and everything runs fine for a while. But eventually, the disk gets fragmented. Search gets slower. Programs take longer to load, not because the hardware is failing, but because nobody's scheduled a cleanup. Autophagy is that background defrag process. You don't see it. You don't interact with it. But without it, everything gradually degrades, and your brain, which is the most metabolically expensive organ you have, feels it first. There's a molecule called NAD+ that plays a big role in this. I think of it like maintenance power. It's the electricity that keeps the cleanup crew running. When NAD+ levels drop from constant eating, from poor sleep, from chronic low-grade inflammation, the cleaning process doesn't just slow down, it stops. And the junk accumulates, not catastrophically, not all at once, just a slow dimming, a gradual loss of clarity you don't notice, until one day you're staring at your own code and wondering who wrote it. I want to be honest here. I'm not someone who executes perfectly. I've tried fasting before and failed more times than I can count. There were nights I broke a fast with delivery fried chicken at 11 p.m. because I was lonely and tired, and the idea of discipline felt almost offensive. I'm not here pretending I cracked some code, but I did find a few things that actually stuck, mostly because they didn't require willpower, they required removal. The first was what I started calling a cognitive fasting window, not just food, although that's part of it, but stimulation in general. 12 to 14 hours where I'm not eating, not scrolling, and not consuming content. I start this window after dinner. It extends through my morning walk to work. No podcasts on the subway, no phone during the walk, just quiet. At first it felt uncomfortable, almost boring, but after a few days, my thoughts started to have texture again, depth, like they were finally being processed instead of just cued. The second thing was shifting to low-stimulus, single-focus activities during the day. One task, no background noise, no tabs. Not because I'm some productivity monk. Trust me, I still catch myself with 9 browser tabs open and no memory of why I opened any of them, but because I noticed something. The less I multitasked, the less noisy my brain felt by evening. It's like reducing interference around a sensor, so the signal comes through cleaner. The third piece surprised me, giving my gut a real break. I'd been grazing constantly. Small snacks, coffee with cream, a handful of almonds here, a piece of chocolate there. And it turns out, even small amounts of food keep your digestive system activated. That sends inflammatory signals. Those signals reach your brain. When I started consolidating my eating into fewer, more intentional windows and letting my gut actually rest, the fog lifted, not in a well-rested way, in a quieter way, like a background hum I didn't know was there. Finally went silent. I still have cloudy days. I still have weeks where I fall off everything and eat cereal for dinner 3 nights in a row, while watching the same show I've already seen twice. That's real life. But the difference now is this. I stopped trying to push through the fog. I stopped adding more. More tools, more routines, more effort, and started subtracting instead. The clarity I was chasing didn't come from doing more. It came from doing less and letting my body run the maintenance cycle it was designed for. Your brain hasn't stopped working. It hasn't lost its edge or its depth. It just lost the space to clean up after itself. And depth, real, honest cognitive depth, doesn't come from filling yourself up. It comes back when you finally make room for it.